All right, well, welcome back to Healthy with Nicole. My name is Nicole Carter, and I have been UC free for 6 years now and counting. In fact, I was just looking at my most recent book that I wrote. It's on Amazon. You can find it in the link below the video here, called How I Healed My Ulcerative Colitis. And it seems to be that people are actually finding this book. And I've had a double in sales in the last year. So unfortunately, people are finding themselves with this illness, but fortunately there is help. And so I think there's a need for a follow-up book here soon. But in the meantime, I'm here to give you some advice based on what I've done myself, what I've seen work with people. I've worked with hundreds of people and successfully to help them find remission. People don't like to hear the cure word, so I'm just going to say remission and permanent remission, like for myself. So I think one of the biggest questions that I get is, how do I incorporate foods again, other foods? And I want to alleviate this fear around incorporating carbohydrates. And so people do have problems with carbohydrates in general, but there's a reason. So let me start with first, there's lots of ways to work on this digestive problem. And it is a digestive problem. I know we all call it an autoimmune disease, but that simply is another way of saying that we don't know what it is. But I believe we do. And I've talked about this in lots of other videos, that I believe it's tightly connected to what we eat and eating foods that we can't digest. I think it has a lot to do with our body's inability to detoxify a lot of chemicals and toxins that our body is accumulating all the time, probably more than ever in the history of man. And also stress that we're not able to deal with. And we have more stress than probably ever in history from lots of different sources. But today I wanted to focus in on the food piece again, because there's a lot of questions around this. And I think there's this belief that people need to go carnivore in order to cure this or find remission. I just want to say that even though that is what I used, I don't think it's necessary. And the reason is because I've added in lots of foods since then over the last several years and have zero side effects and zero symptoms. I've also worked with lots of people, and none of them really had to do strict carnivore forever. I mean, some of them did do it for quite a while, and some people never did it, and everybody had something different. So I think it's important to recognize that there isn't a one size fits all. Even for all of the people I've worked with, a lot of us did similar things, but everybody did do something a little bit different. Your tolerance to one food is going to be totally different than another person's tolerance. And so unfortunately, there isn't a one size fits all. There isn't a UC diet. It's going to be different for everybody. And so I recently heard that the word, if you're in the carnivore space, you know the name Dr. Shawn Baker. And recently I heard that he was adding in foods to bring down his cholesterol. And he went for apples. So I will say that I actually did eat apples pretty soon into my introduction of foods, and I did okay with them. But I would never recommend them to anybody else that has active symptoms of ulcerative colitis, inflammatory bowel disease, or other digestive problems, because they're actually really hard to digest, raw apples. Cooking them, you might do a little bit better, but there is a reason why people start adding in foods, even Shawn Baker. I don't know all of his reasons. I guess one of them was to do with cholesterol, but let's just say that you've got your symptoms under control. And when I say symptoms, I mean inflammatory bowel disease or any other digestive illness, okay? So they're all related. And let's just say you've got your symptoms well under control and you're ready to start adding back in foods. Some people might say, I'm never gonna add back other foods, and choose to stay zero carb. I think that there are people out there that probably do okay with that. I did not. And I know lots of people that run into roadblocks after a while. Different kinds of problems, could be hormones, could be thyroid, could be low energy, loss of muscle, can be all kinds of things. And there are people out there that say they are doing great. But that is subjective. And I've seen people who say they're doing great, which I don't think they are, based on an outward view. So you have to really consider these things for yourself to know if and when you should add foods like, are you sleeping well? Do you have a good appetite? Is your digestion good? Do you have any ill symptoms? Do you have a sex drive? Do you get your cycle regularly if you're a female? There's a lot of things that are hormone based that I think are related to this. And even not hormone based, like, do you heal from injuries quickly and easily like we should? So if you see problems of any kind, you might want to reconsider what you're doing. And if that is currently eating no carbohydrates, there's a good reason for that. So how do we decide what and when to add? Well, I think that as long as your symptoms are under control, this is usually where I start having people add in foods, then you can start with things that are really easy to digest. So let's look at, for example, fruit. I think fruit is a good starting point because it has the least amount of irritants, although it depends on the kind of fruit. Now, apples are really high in fiber, and of course there's the peel, and even if you peel it, and there's some other plant chemicals in there that might not be too friendly to your gut, may cause gas. I think that that's not a great choice. What I would normally recommend for someone is actually start with fruit juice so that your body can start to get used to having glucose again, carbohydrate again. Obviously, we're talking about fructose, but there is a difference between just having the juice without the fiber and having the juice only. So this is a good way to start getting carbohydrates back into your body and start getting used to having a more balanced blood sugar, because most people are used to having pretty low blood sugar. So little by little, we add carbohydrates, right? So you do want to go slow. And yes, you can anticipate a small amount of water weight gain pretty immediately when you start adding carbohydrates. And so you can expect anywhere from 5 to 10 pounds in a matter of a couple weeks. So don't be alarmed. It's going to level off. But fruit is a good place to start. Again, fruit juice. And if you wanted to go ahead and upgrade to whole fruit, that works too. Just make sure that it's a low fiber fruit, mostly water. Watermelon is a great one. Cantaloupe, honeydew. Think of the melons that don't have seeds, don't have skins. Those are usually a better place. For people that are pretty sensitive, I like papaya. Papaya is a really easy to digest fruit. And you'll probably want to have these with your protein, and you're going to probably want to go a little bit less fat than you would be on carnivore. And that is just to kind of help with digestion. So you're going to have to play around with this and try it out. But what I would recommend is starting with one food and try that one food by itself in addition to the things you've already been eating for about 24 hours, wait and see what happens. If you don't get any kind of negative effects, then go ahead and add some more or try a new food. But the thing is that people often do run into things that they consider a side effect. And a lot of those are digestive, like bloating, gas, diarrhea. And the reason is because if you've been on a zero carb diet for a while, your microbiome has changed. The bacteria in your gut has changed. And that might be why you saw, a lot of diarrhea in the beginning or something like that. But yeah, your ability to digest foods does change over time based on what you're currently eating. So I'm not surprised when people say, I got a little bit of bloating. Okay, if it was minor and you feel okay, then wait a little bit, have another small amount in 24 hours and try again. So it might just be a matter of reacclimating to those foods. Again, I would not suggest going, full in and eating whatever, because one, you don't know what foods will react with you, and you need to retrain your body. And so starting slow, low fiber, easy to digest things. So vegetables, raw vegetables are not a good place to start, in my opinion, and neither are plant-based foods like nuts, seeds, legumes, and grains, which I never eat. So those are probably your best starting points for food. Fruit juice, even honey is a good place to start getting your glucose levels up. And then if you want to graduate from the fruit, you could try white rice. White rice, there's actually very little left over by the time it gets to your intestines, which is a good thing. And then some people do okay with potatoes. If you peel them and boil them and have a little butter on them, they're great. But some people lose the enzymes to digest that starch. And so it depends on how, bad your gut is, and a lot of trial and error. So be patient with yourself, start with very small amounts, give it time, 24 hours or so before you really write it off. And then always just try again, wait and try again. Unless you had a very severe reaction, your body's probably just needing to get used to those foods again. So go slow and don't be afraid to try new foods. Keep it really simple, and I think you're gonna be just fine. I'm gonna leave a link below to my Calendly. If you need more help, you can book a session with me there. And otherwise, you can really just follow my pages here. I have taken down my Podia account because it was kind of a ripoff. They wanted me to pay $900 a year to give away free content, and so I don't agree with that. So until I find a new platform to host my free downloads, they're currently not available. You can email me if you need something in one of those downloads. Otherwise, book a session with me, follow me here. This video content is